Discover the incredible truth behind a waitress's bandaged hand that changed lives forever. Rachel Johnson had a way of brightening even the gloomiest of Maple Grove's winter days with her warm smile and genuine kindness. At 38, this devoted waitress had spent nearly 2 decades serving coffee and comfort food at the local diner, all while caring for her aging father, a beloved war veteran. Life hadn't always been easy, but Rachel tackled her grueling shifts with a fierce resilience born of love. That was until a freak accident during a busy lunch turned her world upside down, leaving her right hand bandaged and her spirit shaken. One sweaty afternoon, as plates clattered and customers buzzed, Rachel's hand got caught in the kitchen door just a moment, but it felt like an eternity. The pain was sharp, an immediate reminder of her vulnerabilities. Friends rushed to her side, their concern palpable. "You're too tough for this, Rach," her friend Clara exclaimed, while others whispered fears that this injury was yet another blow in a town where tough stories were often left untold. Despite the pain, Rachel pushed through her shifts, all the while navigating the sour look her longtime rival, Doris, sent her way like a poisonous dart. Onlookers eyed her bandaged hand, some with admiration, while others wore the pity that clawed at her heart like a heavy stone. As bills began piling up and her father's health grew frail, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that her struggles were on full display, many unaware of just how hard she fought against her circumstances. Mark, her brother, caught in his own spiral of resentment, loomed like a shadow in their small home. With their mother long gone, all he could see was favoritism towards their father. Rachel found solace in the diner, but at home, unspoken grievances hung thick in the air, creating a battlefield full of tension. Amidst this turmoil, the town's annual fundraiser approached, a chance for the community to come together. It felt like a daunting task, but Rachel agreed to help, desperate to mask her worries with a hopeful facade. Her bandaged hand quickly transformed from a source of embarrassment to a symbol of resilience as she shared her story. Conversations ignited, revealing the shared burdens that bound the townsfolk together, a weaving of strength and vulnerability. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the night unfolded under twinkling stars, a chilling scream pierced the air. A child had fallen into the icy river that lined the town. Without hesitation, Rachel dove in, her heart pounding like a furious drum. She fought the cold, her injured hand gripping the child's jacket tight as she pulled them to safety. The crowd gasped, their hearts racing along with hers. In that moment, Rachel was transformed from the pitiful waitress to the town's hero. And yet, just as swiftly as the cheers crashed around her, the whispers about her struggles began to ebb and mingle. Did they truly know her story? Did they care about her sacrifices beyond this fleeting moment of glory? As Rachel emerged from the river, gasping for breath, she found herself faced with the weight of expectation and a brother who would struggle with her newfound status. Amidst the cheers, the question loomed large: was this bravery enough to mend the rifts in her family? The road ahead seemed fraught with heartache and hope, leaving Rachel to ponder just how far she could swim, both in the river and in the turbulent waters of her own life. The town buzzed with excitement after Rachel's daring rescue. She could still feel the icy water clinging to her clothes, but the warmth of the crowd enveloped her like a blanket. Hugs and high-fives followed her through the streets of Maple Grove. Yet beneath that veneer of support, something darker stirred. As she headed home, the image of her brother Mark flooded her mind. She could only imagine the scowl on his face as he furiously paced their living room. The lane that led to their house felt longer than ever, each step heavy with dread. The cheers still rang in her ears, and yet the thought of facing Mark was like stepping back into that freezing river, unprepared and terrified. "Rachel, you need to see this." Mark's voice hit her like a slap as she entered the modest home they shared. He was standing by the window, pointing outside. She followed his gaze to find a cluster of neighbors gossiping outside, eyes trained on her, some with admiration, others with envy. "You think you're a hero now?" he spat, bitterness dripping from every word. "Mark, it was just what?" he interrupted, spinning around to face her. "A pathetic stunt for some praise. People don't care about you. They see a girl with a bandaged hand. They see a story, not you." Rachel's heart sank. Couldn't he see? Why was he lashing out? This isn't just about me. It was about saving that child. It's always about saving someone else with you, isn't it? Mark's voice was rising. What about us? What about the sacrifices we've both made for Dad? You act like you're the only one struggling. His words pierced deeper than any injury she had endured. Tears pricked her eyes as she felt the weight of their childhood hardships crashing over her. Mark wasn't wrong, their family was frayed at the edges. But why did he have to lash out at her moment of triumph? "Mark, I wanted to do something good. I couldn't just stand by," she pleaded, fighting back emotions that clung like shadows in the corners of the room. "We're all hurting. I thought maybe this could bring us together." Together? You think being a hero changes everything? What about the bills? Dad's medicine? These aren't going away because of a rescue. His eyes were stormy, shadows cast across his face. She took a deep breath, searching for words that would bridge the chasm of misunderstanding. "Mark, I need you. I've always needed you." But he just shook his head, refusing to meet her eyes. "You think I can just cheer you on after everything?" Rachel turned away, feeling swallowed by the weight of disappointment and fear. The town may have named her a hero, but in her own home, she felt like a failure. What would it take to lift the cloud of resentment between them? The next day, maple leaves danced upon the ground, the sun shining down on another crisp morning. Rachel hesitated as she stood outside the diner. The townspeople would be there, and the cheers would surely follow. But could she truly face them knowing her brother still remained in turmoil? Questions rattled around in her mind as she stepped inside, where the familiar scents of coffee and frying bacon greeted her. Clara was pouring coffee at the counter, an excited smile springing to her face. "Rach! You won't believe what I heard." "Not now, Clara." Rachel paused, glancing at her bandaged hand, the weight of it both a badge of honor and a reminder of her family's struggle. "I have to figure this out first." But even as she resolved to confront Mark, the small voice of anxiety lingered. What if he didn't want to be saved? And what if she couldn't save her family from itself? As she leaned against the counter, Rachel felt the pulse of the diner around her, the energy buzzing like electricity. The door swung open, and in walked someone unexpected. Doris. The woman who had always become more of an obstacle than an ally now approached her, a determined look etched across her face. Rachel's heart raced. Was this the moment what would change everything? Or another unexpected twist along her fragile journey? Doris paused a few feet away, her eyes scanning Rachel's bandaged hand. For a moment, the diner seemed to hush, coffee pots freezing mid-pour as the other patrons turned to observe. Rachel felt exposed, as if the whole town were waiting for the next chapter of her life to unfold in public. "Rachel, can we talk?" Doris said, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "It's important." Rachel opened her mouth, unsure what to say or if she even wanted to engage. She felt a raw mix of irritation and surprise flood through her. "I guess," she replied, hesitatingly. She stepped away from the counter, leaving Clara behind, concern etched on her face. As they moved outside, the crisp autumn air filled Rachel's lungs, sharp but refreshing. She could see the whispers continue inside, but now the chatter felt muted, as if the world had narrowed down to just her and Doris. "What is going on?" Rachel asked, her patience thin. "Why are you here? You don't usually talk to me about anything that's not work-related." Doris took a deep breath, her hands twisting nervously at her sides. "I know this all seems like a lot. The rescue, the attention, everything. But I've heard some things about you and Mark. Rachel's heart sank at the mention of her brother's name. What do you mean? They're saying he feels overshadowed. He's hurting, Rachel. I spoke to Mrs. Reynolds at the post office yesterday, and well, she mentioned he's been struggling more than anyone realizes. They think you're getting all the credit while he's carrying the load. Rachel's brow furrowed, frustration bubbling up. Why is it always about Mark? What about how I feel? Doris stepped closer, sensing Rachel's emotional storm. I'm not saying it's easy for you. But maybe you both are caught in a cycle where you're not listening to each other. What if you tried to see things from his perspective? The word struck Rachel like a hard reminder of everything Mark had said the day before. He wasn't wrong about their struggles, he just had a way of holding on to resentment that she couldn't comprehend. She rubbed the bandage on her hand absent-mindedly, feeling the sting of past injuries. He doesn't understand that I wanted to do something good, Rachel murmured, dropping her gaze to the ground. He only sees the spotlight, not the reason behind my actions. Sometimes people need more than the act itself. They need to know they are seen and heard, Doris replied, her voice softening. If you truly want to help your brother, maybe you need to show him that you see him too. Rachel felt a rush of adrenaline at the thought of confronting Mark again. Would he even listen? Or would he push her away once more, as he had done that very morning? What do I do, Doris? Rachel asked. There was a fragile hope in her voice, mixed with uncertainty. How do I reach him? Doris smiled gently, her eyes warm and earnest. Start by being honest. Share your own feelings and why you did what you did. Let him know he matters, that his struggles are valid. You can both heal together if you stop avoiding the conversation. Rachel took a long, measured breath, her mind racing with possibilities. This could be the turning point, the moment she could finally bridge the rift. As she headed back inside the diner, the atmosphere felt different. Even the bustling waitstaff and clattering dishes seemed to carry a new rhythm. But just before she gathered the courage to reach out to Mark, a shriek broke through the laughter and chatter. A child had fallen, and there was pandemonium as parents rushed to comfort their OWN. That instant, Rachel felt torn once more, caught between her brother's turmoil and the pain around her. Could she be both the rescuer and the sister in need? What was expected of her now? As she prepared to rush to aid the child, a small voice whispered in her mind, what would it take to bring her family back together? The chaos had reignited her fears. What if she couldn't be both? Time was ticking. Would this moment pull her away from supporting her brother, or push her to confront the truth once and for all? As she hesitated, she could feel Mark's presence in the back of her mind. Would he be there to stand with her when the dust settled? Rachel instinctively turned toward the commotion, her heart racing as panic filled the air. Parents rushed past her, calling out names, their faces etched with fear. She took a half-step forward, then stood frozen, torn between her instinct to help and the weight of the unresolved feelings looming with Mark. Rachel! A shout broke through the chaos, pulling her attention. Clara rushed outside, her apron flapping as she pushed through the throng. Stay back. I've got it. Clara. Rachel called, her voice barely rising above the noise. Wait. I can help. But Clara waved her away, her focus now entirely on the fallen child, who was crumpled on the pavement, evidence of a scraped knee and tears spilling down the little face, breath catching in her throat. Rachel watched as Clara knelt beside the child, her calm demeanor radiating reassurance. That's when she felt the prickling doubt creeping in. Shouldn't she be the one there? The urge to run to Clara was strong, but every ounce of her being was still resentful of having to step in while Mark was likely drowning in his feelings. Then, amidst the turmoil, she glimpsed a familiar face, that of Mrs. Reynolds, who had spoken to Doris. The older woman stood a few feet away, her expression worried yet helpless as she assessed the scene unfolding before her. Rachel's heart tugged. Could she do something that would help everyone, including herself? Swallowing hard, Rachel moved forward, her bandaged hand pulsing with every step toward the child. "It's okay," she called out to the frightened girl. "I'm here with you." The sight of the child's trembling lips throbbed through her as she approached Clara, lending her strength. "Hey, I've got this," Clara said softly, glancing up at Rachel, then back to the little girl. "Just keep talking to her." The simple, genuine connection seemed to ignite something in Rachel. She knelt down, meeting the child's eyes. "What's your name, sweetie?" "Maisie," the girl sniffled, her brows slightly furrowed in confusion. "Maisie, I love that name," Rachel replied, her voice steady. "You're so brave. Can I see your knee? We can make it feel better together, okay?" With Clara helping with gentle reassurance, Rachel focused on Maisie, using her recent experiences to guide her. She talked the girl through each small step of cleaning the wound, applying ointment, and covering it with a cartoon bandage. As she worked, she inadvertently felt a warmth envelope her heart, making the turmoil within seem less significant. Maybe this is what it meant to be seen, to truly listen and be present for someone else. The small victory of helping Maisie grounded her in a way she hadn't anticipated. "You're a hero," Maisie whispered, her bright eyes sparkling with a mix of fear and admiration. Rachel felt her throat tighten as she paused. A hero? She wondered if she could see herself that way too, not just in dramatic rescues but in moments with Mark, with her family. Maybe it was time for her to confront the truth behind her own feelings. Just then, from the corner of her eye, she caught Mark entering the diner, sweat glistening on his brow. The sight of him ignited a rush of conflicted emotions, fear of his reaction combined with a surge of hope. Could this moment with Maisie be what finally propelled her toward the truth with Mark? Would she find the right words to bridge the distance? With a final look at the thankful little girl, Rachel knew she couldn't postpone it any longer. As she stood up, taking a deep breath, her heart seemed to guide her feet toward Mark. The path ahead was still uncertain, but she was ready to face him. Just as she took her first step, the ground lurched beneath her, and an ominous sound echoed from the diner. Had something gone horribly wrong? The warmth she felt moments before turned icy in an instant. What was about to unfold would change everything. Would Rachel have the courage to step into the chaos once more? Rachel's heart raced as she turned toward the diner, fear blooming in her chest. The ominous sound echoed again, a deep rumble that seemed to shake the very ground beneath her. She glanced back at Clara and Maisie, who were now surrounded by parents and other onlookers, a world away from the turmoil growing around her. "Rachel." A voice broke through the noise, that familiar voice, tinged with worry. It was Mark, pushing through the crowd with urgency in his eyes. Seeing him like this brought all her thoughts crashing back to the forefront. His concern for her shot sparks of warmth through the icy grip of panic. "What's happening?" he demanded, breathless as he approached her. I don't know," she stammered, her pulse going wild. It sounded like something went wrong before she could finish. The sound erupted again, louder this time. A murmur passed through the crowd, a wave of anxious whispers sweeping over them. Everything around Rachel blurred except for the intensity in Mark's hazel eyes. He looked at her like she was the only thing keeping him grounded. "Stay close," he urged, clutching her wrist. She felt the warmth of his skin through the coolness of her bandaged hand. It ignited a flicker of awareness in her chest. This was not just about the chaos. It was about them, what they'd been avoiding for too long. As they edged further into the swirl of concern, a figure burst through the diner doors. It was Clyde, the diner owner, his face pale and strained. The few seconds of silence that followed felt like eternity as everyone awaited his words. "Fire!" Clyde shouted, his voice cracking. "There's a fire in the kitchen. We need to evacuate." The panic broke loose like a dam bursting. Parents grabbed their children, shoving through the crowd. Clara instinctively shielded Maisie, pulling her close, her face set with determination. Rachel felt Mark's grip tighten on her hand, pulling her out of the way of frantic parents rushing past. "We need to help get everyone out," he shouted over the chaos. "No," she said suddenly, her voice rising above his. "No, we can't just run. We need to make sure no one is left inside." He looked into her eyes, a mix of fear and surprise. "You want to go back in?" "Yes," Rachel replied with conviction. "We can't just leave. What about the people who might not know? What if someone needs help?" A moment of silence passed between them, and within that silence, the world seemed to still. The fire crackled ominously behind Clyde, a dark shadow reaching out like fingers, and Rachel felt the weight of responsibility press against her chest, but this time, it felt empowering. Mark's mouth opened to speak, but the intensity of her gaze silenced him. "You need to trust me," she said softly, her heart racing. "We can do this together." He nodded, determination replacing his panic. "Okay, but we go together. No one gets left behind." They started back toward the diner, pushing through the crowd. Rachel bravely led the way, Mark following close behind. Each step felt heavy, the smoke billowing around them like a living thing, each breath filled with the acrid bite of burning grease. As they neared the entrance, Rachel whispered, "If we find anyone, we get them out. No matter what." Mark's eyes locked onto hers, resolve flowing through him. "We can do this." But just as they reached the door, another loud crash echoed from inside. The crowd gasped, and Rachel hesitated, doubt creeping in. Did they really have what it took to brave the unknown together? "Stay close," Mark shouted, and Rachel knew there was no turning back now. They stepped into the fray together, united in mission and in heart. What awaited them inside the smoke-laden diner would test their courage more than they had ever imagined. Would they emerge stronger, or would the fire consume more than they anticipated? As Rachel and Mark plunged through the door into the now chaotic diner, the heat from the fire hit them like a wave. Flames flickered in orange bursts, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The acrid smell of smoke invaded her senses, making it hard to breathe. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to focus. "Keep low," Mark shouted, pulling her down just as a shower of ash fell from above. They ducked under a sturdy booth, the wood hot beneath them. "We need to find anyone who might be trapped," Rachel called out, fighting to maintain her voice against the rising crackle of flames. Mark nodded, glancing around. "Do you think anyone is still here?" "I hope not. But if they are, we can't leave them." Her voice was steady, but fear gnawed at her gut. They crawled to the entrance of the kitchen, flames licking the air. Through the doorway, chaos reigned. Pots clanged as the fire raged, and the walls were alive with heat. "Clyde!" Rachel's voice cracked as she called out, her breath coming in bursts. "Are you in here?" Silence hung heavy like a shroud, pressing down on them. They exchanged glances, Mark's eyes wide with concern. Maybe he made it out. But Rachel couldn't accept that. "We can't leave without checking." With renewed urgency, they crept into the kitchen. The fire blazed with a ferocity as a nearby shelf collapsed with a booming crash. They ducked instinctively but pressed on, searching frantically. "Clyde!" Rachel shouted again, this time hearing a faint groan in return. She spotted him tangled beneath a fallen table, grimacing in pain. "Get me out!" he gasped, panic lacing his words. "Hang on," Mark said, rushing to Clyde's side. Rachel joined him, the three of them pitching under the debris. Sweat dripped into her eyes as she fought to focus. With every motion, she felt the weight of the flames on her back urging her to run, but she pushed it aside. "On 3, Mark said, counting down, and they heaved together, lifting the table just enough for Clyde to crawl free. "Thank you," Clyde wheezed as he scrambled out, his face drawn with ash and fear. "We need to move, now." Rachel felt a spark of hope. "Can you walk?" He nodded, but it was clear that he was struggling. As they made their way back out, the fire grew angrier, smoke billowing thicker, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. Suddenly, the ceiling creaked overhead, ominously, and Rachel realized they were running out of time. "We have to hurry," she urged, grabbing Clyde's arm to help him up. Mark glanced back towards the front of the diner, where the crowd still gathered helplessly outside. "We can't leave until everyone's out." "But if we don't get out soon," Rachel's voice broke, the weight of responsibility pushing down harder than the smoke itself. "We're not leaving anyone," Mark snapped, fierce determination burning in his eyes. Just as they rounded a corner, the wall beside them erupted with flame, igniting the air and forcing them back. Wide-eyed, Rachel pulled Mark and Clyde closer, the heat biting into their skin. "Over here," Mark shouted, pointing towards a side exit. They sprinted, the heat deepening with every step, the chaos amplifying around them. Rachel could feel her heart in her throat, pushing her forward as the loss of air gnawed at her lungs. As they burst through the side door, she turned back, breathless. The diner glowed like a monster, a terrifying spectacle alive with fire. "We did it!" Clyde gasped, echoing her own surge of relief, but Rachel felt something else, a more profound realization. "Mark," she said, voice trembling, panic lacing her thoughts. They had made it out, but what if it hadn't ended here? "Let us help the others," he replied, squeezing her hand like a lifeline, eyes scanning for anyone else they might have missed. The moment hung heavy with unsaid words, and Rachel felt it deep within her, the weight of what they had just faced and the bond it forged. The fire hadn't just tested their courage, it had transformed their lives, but as she glanced back at the diner, the reality of what they faced lingered. They had escaped the fire, but would they emerge from this stronger, or would it uncover new fears buried within? Rachel took a deep breath, readying herself for whatever came next. There were still questions to answer, starting with the truth Rachel felt gripping at her heart. "Mark," she whispered, "there's something I need to tell you." And just like that, their journey took a turn into the unknown once more. The sounds of the fire roared behind them, echoing like an angry beast. Rachel's heart beat wildly as she and Mark stood at the edge of the sidewalk, surrounded by the growing crowd. Paramedics rushed to the scene, but Rachel felt glued to the spot, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. "Rachel," Mark's voice broke through the haze. "We need to regroup. There are still people we haven't checked on." The weight of urgency wrapped around her. "Yeah, you're right. But I can't just stand here." Rachel glanced back at the diner, with flames licking upwards like long, hungry tongues. She could barely comprehend the scene, so many lives intertwined in that one small place. Mark gripped her arm, pulling her attention back. "We can't help if we don't stay safe, okay? We have to think clearly." His eyes, usually calm, were now locked onto hers with an intensity she'd never seen. Through the sweat and fear, she could see the determination in them. "Let us go check the back. Maybe some people got stuck behind there." "Okay," she nodded, steel sharpening her resolve. They darted past the flashing lights, the cries of concern morphing into a dull roar behind them. The fear of losing someone else came rushing back, overpowering her senses. They jogged to the rear entrance of the diner, where the flames flickered through cracked windows, casting terrifying shadows across the pavement. Rachel's breath quickened as thoughts flashed like lightning in her mind. Clyde had been saved, but she couldn't shake the fear that something worse could still happen. "Rachel." Mark's voice cut through her thoughts again. He pointed towards the back. "Look." A young waitress, trembling and covered in soot, stumbled out from the alleyway. Her hands clutched her apron like a lifeline, it looked like she was holding on to something just as precious. "Help please." Her voice quivered, breaking under the weight of panic. Rachel instinctively stepped forward, feeling the urgency of the moment. "What happened? Are you okay?" The waitress's eyes darted around as if she was trying to find her footing in a world spinning out of control. "I was inside, cleaning up after the lunch shift. A group came in, then everything went wrong. I hid, but my hand it's hurt." She pulled her apron aside, revealing a bandaged hand that looked raw and bloody. Mark rushed to her side. "Let me take a look." As he gently peeled back the bandage, Rachel's stomach twisted. The sight of the injury made her stomach churn. "You need a medic," he said firmly. But the others, her voice broke as she looked back at the diner, her eyes watering with fear. "The medics are right there. We can't help if you're hurt, we need to make sure you're safe first," Rachel assured her, her heart aching for the girl. She was probably only a few years younger than Rachel herself, and that thought struck her deep. The waitress took a trembling breath, clearly weighing her choices. The thoughts flickered across her face: fear, responsibility, guilt. "Okay, I'll go," she finally said, her voice low. "But I can't leave yet. I have to help them, some are still in there." Mark and Rachel exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. They all knew the urgency of the moment and the stakes at hand. The flames had not just destroyed the diner, they threatened to unravel the lives connected to it. "Let us get you cleaned up first," Rachel urged, looking deep into the waitress's eyes. "Then we'll go back together. You don't have to face this alone." As they started walking toward the medics, Rachel suddenly felt a deeper connection, a shared strength blossoming from the ashes of fear. "Rachel," Mark said softly beside her, "it's brave of her to want to go back. But what if we lose control?" And just like that, reality hit Rachel like a bucket of ice water. Would facing their fear be their salvation or their downfall? The weight of what loomed in front of them sent shivers down her spine, igniting the urgency in her veins once more. "Whatever happens next," Rachel whispered, more to herself than to Mark, "we can't back down now." As they moved toward the emergency responders, she wondered if the truth she needed to confess to Mark was something that could wait, or if now was the time to reveal what had been trapped inside her like smoke against the embers. But as they approached the medics, her heartbeat quickened. What would happen when she finally revealed her truth? What if it changed everything? The crowd surged around them, loud and chaotic. Sirens blared, signaling urgency in every direction. Rachel's heart raced as she guided the waitress toward the medics, Mark staying close by her side, his presence a tether in the storm of emotion enveloping them. "Over here," a paramedic called out, and the three of them rushed to the makeshift triage area set up on the edge of the sidewalk. Rachel couldn't shake the feeling of dread pooling in her stomach. Despite the immediate concern for the injured, her mind whirred with the revelation she held close. As they reached the paramedics, the young waitress winced as she sat down, her injured hand pulled protectively toward her chest. She started, but her voice cracked, a wave of emotions crashing down. "I can't just leave them. I can't start with you," Mark said gently, kneeling beside her. "Then you can help. We will make sure you're okay first." The paramedic, a tall woman with a soothing demeanor, checked the waitress's injury. She looked up, her brow furrowed with concern. "You're going to need some stitches. Can you sit tight for me? I'll take care of this hand, then we can talk about everyone else." Rachel nodded, stepping slightly back to give the girl space. She felt Mark's gaze on her, an unspoken question lingering between them. "Rachel," he whispered, "are you all right? We can still go back." "I know," she replied, swallowing hard. "I know." As the paramedic worked, Rachel felt a flicker of hope at the sound of the medic's reassuring voice, but it clashed with her rising anxiety. Everyone was focusing on the waitress, but what about her own burden? Her truth pressed heavily at the back of her throat. She should tell Mark. She had to. Suddenly, a shriek echoed from the direction of the diner. Rachel whipped around, dread twisting in her chest. A man, filthy and wild-eyed, emerged from the smoke. He staggered backward, panic radiating off him as he screamed, "Get back! There's more! They're trapped!" The crowd gasped collectively, fear gripping them, and the paramedics sprung into action. Rachel's heart sank, the reality of the situation burned brighter than the flames licking the diner. People remained inside, and the thought weighed down on her. "Mark!" Rachel shouted over the growing noise. "We have to help them. We can't just stand here." Before he had a chance to respond, the waitress grabbed Rachel's wrist with her good hand. Her eyes were wild, filled with a mix of fear and determination. "What about the others?" she asked, voice trembling. "They need us." Rachel's breath hitched. She wanted to comfort the girl but also felt the same sense of urgency coursing through her. Mark turned to her, his expression clouded with concern. "If we go back in there, it's dangerous. We don't know the state of that place. But we can't leave them." Rachel insisted, her voice fierce against the rising panic. The growing crowd seemed to fade as she locked eyes with Mark. "I want to let you go alone," he said finally, resolve hardening in his gaze. Rachel felt that pulse of connection between them strengthen, as if the flames around them could forge their bond. They had to act, had to push through this fear. "Then let us move," she said, determination flooding her veins. As they turned back toward the inferno, Rachel's heart raced, her thoughts swirling like smoke. What she needed to say to Mark still hung over them like a heavy cloud. But right now, their focus had to be on helping those still trapped inside. Each step toward the chaos deepened the knot in her stomach. She could no longer ignore the truth gnawing at her insides, but it was rapidly growing clear. The danger wasn't just the fire. It was the weight of what she had been hiding from him. When they finally turned to face the diner, Rachel knew that whatever she'd been avoiding, it could wait no longer. "Mark," she began, her voice shaking as they neared the engulfed building. "There is something I need to tell you." The heat radiating from the flames felt like a warning, a reminder that time was running out. As Rachel prepared to reveal her truth, a sharp scream pierced the air from the diner. The moment of truth was rushing toward them, quickening her pulse with dread. Would she have the courage to speak before it was too late? Rachel's heart raced as the scream echoed again, cutting through her thoughts like a knife. It was a frantic sound, dripping with fear and desperation from within the heart of the blazing diner. She turned toward Mark, who stood beside her, eyes wide and determined. "Let us go," he shouted, grabbing her hand and pulling her forward. They bolted toward the entrance, adrenaline surging through them. The flames danced higher, casting eerie shadows against the broken windows. Smoke billowed out like angry ghosts, clawing at the air around them. The world outside was a cacophony of chaos. Sirens wailed, and voices cried in fear. But in this moment, all Rachel could focus on was what lay ahead. The heat washed over them as they approached the door. Rachel could barely see inside, the thick smoke obscured everything. She paused, feeling the weight of her last words hanging between them. "Mark, I keep moving," he urged, and she felt the pressure of his grip as he dragged her forward. With a surge of determination, they pushed through the door. Inside, the scene was nightmarish. Flames flickered menacingly, licking at the walls. Scorched paper and debris littered the floor, while thick black smoke curled around them like a living thing. The acrid smell made Rachel choke, but it was the cries for help that propelled her deeper. "Hello? Is anyone in here?" Rachel shouted, voice hoarse against the crackling fire. The heat intensified, pressing down on them like a heavy blanket. She squinted through the smoke, taking another step forward. Everything felt surreal, like a horrible dream. A figure darted past her, and she instinctively reached out. "Wait!" But it was gone, swallowed by the smoke and flames. "Rachel, we can't lose focus." Mark's voice cut through her panic. "We need to find people." She nodded, forcing herself to breathe. Memories of that fateful night flooded her mind, how things had spiraled, the devastation that had unfolded. But she shook them off. This wasn't about her fear of fire, it was about helping others. They moved carefully, navigating through the debris-laden floor, shouting for anyone who might still be trapped. Then, through the haze, Rachel caught sight of something, a dim blue glow from the far corner of the diner. "Over there!" she cried, pointing. "I see light." They staggered over, pushing through the thick smoke, and as they got closer, she could distinguish a form huddled behind the wreckage. A woman, knees pulled to her chest, was shivering, tears streaming down her soot-streaked face. "Help! Please!" she moaned, visibly trembling. "Mark, help me. We need to get her out." Rachel rushed forward, her heart pounding with urgency. Together, they worked to lift the debris, their hands slick with soot and sweat. The flames roared around them, but so did the sense of purpose that surged between them. With one final push, they freed the woman, cradling her arm. "I've got you." Mark supported her while Rachel steadied her. "Can you walk?" "I think so," the woman gasped, fear evident in her wide eyes. Rachel took a deep breath, glancing back at the fire. Time was running out. "Follow us." They turned, retracing their steps back toward the entrance, and the weight of the moment bore down upon Rachel. The truth still lingered, aching to escape. Just as they reached the door, Rachel felt her foot snag. She stumbled, falling to the ground, her heart racing in panic. "Mark!" she screamed, looking back at him. "Go!" he shouted, bracing himself to pull her up. As he reached for her, the flames roared to life behind them with terrifying intensity. Thick embers rained down like dangerous snowflakes. The urgency imbued her with strength. In that moment, something clicked into place, a vulnerability coursing through her heart. It was time to tell him. "Mark, please." Her voice shook with the panic of the burning diner and the burden she had carried too long. "I need to tell you I'm." Before she could finish, a crack echoed from above. A beam fell, collapsing in front of them, blocking their escape. "You have to go," Rachel urged, fear spilling over as smoke rose around them. The flames licked closer, and she realized she might not get another chance. As the fire raged, closing in around them, Rachel grasped Mark's hand tightly, locking eyes with him. "Promise me you'll remember." He stared back, confusion mixed with acceptance illuminating his features. "Rachel." And just like that, even amid the chaos, a spark of understanding ignited between them. Would this be the moment she finally gathered enough courage to reveal her truth, or would they be consumed by the fire's sinister grip? The air blazed with heat and chaos as Rachel held Mark's hand tight, their eyes locked in that moment of urgency where everything was about to change. Outside, their world burned, but within their connection lay a resilience ready to defy the flames. With each passing second, the weight of unspoken truths pressed against her ribcage. "Mark." she breathed, voice barely audible over the crackle of fire. It was now or never. But before she could finish, a deafening crash erupted. The ceiling above sagged, shifting like a wild beast ready to consume them. Fear gripped Rachel, sharper than the searing heat around her. "Go. Get out." she shouted, but the urgency in Mark's eyes told her he wouldn't leave. "Not without you," he declared, tearing at her heart. She wanted to scream, to force him to understand, but time was slipping. How could she let him go knowing the truth had to spill out? The flames roared closer, and suddenly, a memory rushed into her mind, a memory of laughter and warmth around the dinner table. A reminder of the connection they once had and how it felt to truly be seen. "Mark, listen." She pushed through the haze of panic, conviction surging. "I'm not just a waitress. I've been taking care of Dad and I've been struggling. I was scared. Scared to tell you that I was afraid." The intensity in his eyes faltered for the briefest moment, revealing vulnerability beneath the strength. "Rachel, we'll get through this," he said softly, the power of that simple statement resonating between them. But the flames crackled, reminding them of their fragile moments. "I can't." Rachel started again, clenching his hand tighter. "I'm scared." Mark faced her squarely, a tenderness softening his features. "We're both scared, Rach. But we have to believe in each other." The room shook with an impending collapse as another beam fell dangerously close. Rachel's breath caught. "We need to go," she cried, every instinct urging her to flee while she still could. "I won't leave you," Mark shouted, determination etched in every line of his face. And just like that, with their world crumbling around them, they were no longer just siblings burdened by the past, they were partners about to face the storm. And the next heartbeat, something shifted, something powerful. Rachel could feel it ripple through their connection. Together, she whispered, overwhelmed by their shared resolve. We go together, she affirmed. Together, Mark echoed, holding her gaze, and in that unsaid promise, camaraderie burned brighter than the flames engulfing the diner. They turned back toward the exit, and just then, desperation surged up, igniting Rachel's spirit. Mark! She cried out, if we escape, we can find a way to fix everything. This doesn't define us. But the fire sputtered angrily, its shadow looming closer, drowning their path in darkness. Just as they resumed their escape, Rachel felt Mark tug her up as the floor quaked beneath their feet. Now, go. He urged, propelling them forward. They stumbled out into the chaos, coughing under swirling clouds of smoke. Bystanders gasped, and rescue teams flooded into view, their faces painted with sheer disbelief over the chaos. I thought you guys didn't make it. A voice shouted, relief and suspicion overlapping. We got lucky, Rachel whispered to Mark, feeling a rush of relief wash over her. Above the chaos, she caught sight of Clyde, his face pale but alive. Fire trucks gathered, illuminating the scene with red and blue lights, a promise of safety breaking through the haze, but still, that urgent weight rested inside her, the truth she had finally voiced, but now served as a vehicle for change. Mark gripped her hand tighter, sensing her need to finish what they had started. Sometime later, as Rachel watched the diner reduce to cinders, she felt a change within. The air seemed dense with possibilities, no longer cloaked in despair but illuminated by warmth as they faced unearthed struggles. She turned to Mark, determination blossoming between them. I realized something tonight, she began, her voice almost a whisper as they moved away from the fire. This was all a wake-up call. We can't let our past bind us anymore, we have to share the load. He met her gaze, now loaded with kindness and understanding. You were never alone in this, Rach, he said gently, brushing their fingers together. I know, Rachel replied, realization dawning. You matter just as much as me. We can lean on each other and maybe get our family back together if you're willing. Just then, she noticed their neighbors moving closer, eyes searching for reassurance and connection amidst the ashes. Rachel felt the warmth radiate in her chest once more. Thank you, she said to Mark, fighting back tears. For being my brother and my anchor when the world fell apart. We'll rebuild, together. As they hugged tightly, the town around them began to gather, every person donned with shared struggle and newfound understanding. Amidst the warmth and light breaking through the remnants of the blushing dawn, Rachel's heart filled with hope. Each person standing there echoed the strength they had built not just for today but to carry them forward. Tomorrow, they would face whatever came next. And slowly, Rachel started to believe they would emerge stronger together, wiser from the flames of the past, and in that moment, she decided to share her story with the community. It was time for healing a new beginning. Because sometimes, it takes a fire to illuminate the true connections we have all along. Now here's the deal, if you want to keep journeying with us, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss a heartbeat of our exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep bringing these tales to life. I want to hear your heart too. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and help us grow. Don't wait not even one more second. Let us spread this message of hope far and wide.